You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Number one, Calvin Russell is an elite player. He's an elite recruit. 6'5", 190, probably does need to bulk up a little bit entering his senior year in high school. But this is someone who on 24/7 Sports is 21st overall as a player in the nation. A 5-star recruit, a top 5 wide receiver in the country. He's an elite player who, if you go check his bio on 24/7 Sports, you'll find that his comparison is T. Higgins. T. Higgins, for those that don't know, was a star wide receiver at Clemson who won a national title with them and is also doing quite well for himself in the NFL. I must say that if Calvin Russell becomes a guy like T. Higgins, I think we'll all be pretty pleased. I think that would be a massive success for Syracuse University. He's got great speed. He can win 50-50 battles. He can run after the catch. He is someone who can make an immediate impact on the field day one as a true freshman. Think about the potential for the wide receiver core. It's tough to do because the transfer portal is a real thing. And as we learned over this past offseason, no player is safe from the portal. I don't think many of us expected that a guy like Trevor Pena would enter the portal, but he did. It happens. It's the nature of the business that we're in now. But just hear me out. Darryl Gill, Jonte Cook, Calvin Russell in 2026. Sounds pretty good. Sounds good if you ask me. I don't know. I'm just saying. Calvin Russell, elite recruit, elite talent, can make a day one impact for Syracuse on the field. I don't know about you all, but that sounds pretty scary, especially in a Jeff Nixon offense that we just saw was the best passing attack in the country a year ago. You know what I also find funny is that a lot of these comments online about Russell and committing to Syracuse, why Syracuse? Well, did you not see their offense a year ago? I know that I'm mostly speaking to you Syracuse fans, but I just find that fascinating. But hey, now Syracuse is more on the radar when you get a guy like Calvin Russell. Pretty nice, right? Number two, the 2026 recruiting class now, which is short term because that's the upcoming recruiting class. Remember, recruiting classes are always a year ahead of the college football season. So we're entering the 2025 college football season, but we're really talking about 2026 recruiting because that's how it works. It's always a year ahead of the current season. But the 2026 recruiting class is projected to be the strongest Syracuse recruiting class in over 20 years. It's currently just outside the top 20 if you go look at the composite rankings on 24/7 Sports. If you just look at 24/7 Sports alone, though, they are inside the top 20 nationally around the nation, right? And again, it goes back to what I said about class team recruiting rankings didn't really start until 2003 on 24/7 Sports. The Orange have never even had a top 30 class in the nation on that website since they began tracking it. Not even top 30. And now we're talking about how they could potentially have a top 20 class in the nation with Calvin Russell. But by the way, I know I mentioned that the goal was top 30. Getting Calvin Russell all but ensures that that's going to happen. Assuming that he ends up signing with Syracuse in December, I'd be shocked if Syracuse fell outside the top 30 in recruiting by signing day. They're going to be a top 30 class. So already alone, that's the strongest recruiting class of the Fran Brown era and the strongest football recruiting class in over 2 decades. But it could also be top 20. Now, they currently have 26 verbal commits in the class of 2026. So I'm not sure how many players they're going to take from here on out. And something that we haven't talked about yet, because we're all so excited about Calvin Russell, Syracuse basically struck out on everyone else, but we don't really care because they got Calvin Russell. He was really the big one that mattered, but they didn't get CJ Hester, who's a 4-star defensive back. They didn't get Julius Miles or Xavier Payne, 3-star guys. They could have helped Syracuse recruiting in this class, but they didn't get them. But that's okay. We'll take the trade of getting Calvin Russell. Okay. But I wanted to point that out there. The guy that I think myself and many of you might be eyeing as a potential short-term target, someone who can help immediately the 2026 recruiting class, 4-star defensive back, current Florida State commit, Tadarius Hughes. Tadarius Hughes has taken an official visit to Syracuse, and as Brian Smith always says, if you get someone for an official visit, that alone gives you a puncher's chance at actually landing a recruit. Doesn't matter what school they are or aren't committed to. If that player says, I want to take an official visit to a school, there's some level of interest. They're giving you a shot. That's why it's always sometimes it's a little bit alarming sometimes when you have a verbal commitment and that verbal commitment's taking official visits to other places. Because you know that you're giving that school a puncher's chance of actually landing that commit. And Syracuse, they got one with Tadarius Hughes, an official visit. And on top of that, he was at the party that Calvin Russell had on Saturday night when he announced his commitment to Syracuse. He's also teammates with Calvin Russell at Miami Northwestern. Now, about the teammate thing, here's what I'll say on it. I don't think it hurts. I think it's nice. It's useful. It can't hurt. Because at the end of the day, though, how much impact does it really have of them being teammates? Tadarius Hughes has to make the decision of where he wants to go to school that is ultimately best for himself and his career in football or his career academically. So it's nice that Calvin Russell is his teammate and decided to commit to Syracuse. But I don't know how much that truly matters. I'll just say it can't hurt. It can't hurt that the guys appear to be really good friends. It can't hurt that they're teammates either. So who knows? Maybe Syracuse can flip a guy like Tadarius Hughes. And if they get a guy like Tadarius Hughes, a 4-star defensive back, borderline top 300 player in the country, that alone could give them a top 20 class.